Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today I'm going to be reacting to some Commorragh TikToks. Now, every Monday, I do a lore series. Every Wednesday or Thursday is the short version of that. That's more of a narrative experience, while Monday's video is more of a lore study and a Bible study altogether. And you guys will be very surprised in what we come up with. Like today, we're going to be talking about the Bible's dark city, and that there's inhabitants. But anyways, so I'm going to be reacting to Warrior Tier, the Sacred Power of Commorragh. And I want to start with this verse. Job 26:5. Dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. So there's inhabitants under the earth. Very, very interesting. And dead things are formed from there. And we know about the Rephaim. The Rephaim literally means the undead ones, or undead giants, would you say, which comes from Genesis 6, all that. But anyways, I digress. Let's get this started here.
Long before the plague of man washed over the galactic arena, my family plowed the violet tides of the infinite gulfs of space. Ours was the way of the enslaver.
That's for sure.
We followed the creed of the butcher.
And we know one thing, the Book of Enoch tells us, and all the extra biblical books, is that these giants pretty much enslaved mankind. And because we couldn't sustain them, they started eating us as well. So, but anyways, I digress.
The Breaker, the ever-present conqueror, our fleets were legend. Our shadows cast dread into the hearts of those worlds over which we passed. We poured 1 billion souls into the pit of our blessed mother Commorragh.
That is interesting right there. Into the pits. Very interesting. Anyways.
Commorragh, that once hallowed, sacred world of power.
Alright. Now I'm going to be reacting to Geek Gabs, the worst city in 40k, Commorragh. Now we're going to be talking about the Bible's dark city here, which is basically talking about Atlantis. Because you're going to see here that verse 19, for thus saith the Lord God, when I shall make thee a desolate city, like the cities that are not inhabited, when I shall bring up the deep upon thee, and great waters shall cover thee. We know that these, they're actually demons and demigods and all that, right? Were ruling Atlantis. But we see that it gets put down into the pit here. So, verse 20. When I shall bring thee down with them that descend into the pit, which is a prison place. And it has a connection to this land of darkness as well. This dimension of darkness. But anyways, with people of old time. And shall set thee in the low parts of the earth, in places desolate of old. So remember Job, the inhabitants thereof, right? Okay. And with them that go down to the pit, that thou not be inhabited, and I shall set glory in the land of the living. And I will make thee a terror, and thou shalt be no more, that thou be sought for, yet shalt thou never be found again, saith the Lord God. And when it says glory in the land of the living, it's basically saying that no living people will live in it, right? But we saw dead things are formed from under the waters, right? So, very interesting. Let's get this started here.
Commorragh, the worst city in existence. May you never find yourself in this place. Not that you would just walk in there or anything. It's a city in another dimension. An artificial reality known as the Webway, controlled mainly by space elves. And the worst of the worst space elves, the Drukhari, live in Commorragh. And if you ever find yourself in the city, it's probably because of these guys. You see, the Drukhari are in a bit of a pickle. Their souls are owned by the chaos god Slaanesh. And being a deity of excess, pleasure, and pain, Slaanesh's plans for the Eldar souls aren't very good.
I guess this would be for the newcomers here. These elves are actually in the Bible. And it comes from Genesis 6, all that stuff, right? There was some shenanigans, genetic manipulation, and all that comes from this seed of the serpent, okay? So if you're wondering. So let me get Proverbs. Oops. 15. Okay. So, Proverbs 30:12. There's a generation that appear in their own eyes, and yet is not washed from their filthiness. There's a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up, like in elves, right? There's a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. And what's interesting is I just learned that this horse leech is this demonic entity it's talking about that comes from this Lilith thing. That's a whole nother thing. Lilith is on I think it's Isaiah 34 talking about the screech out there. The Hebrew is actually Lilith. Now she's not the first wife of Adam. Okay, that's Jewish mysticism. But yes, she is in the Bible. The Queen of Heaven, if you want to call her that, right? But I digress.
Eternity of endless torment. But if the Drukhari can feed Slaanesh something else in the meantime, they can hold onto their souls a little bit longer. And nothing's more tasty than the agony of other people. So the Dark Eldar go out, collect prisoners, take them back to Commorragh, and go on to torture them in the worst ways possible. Whatever horrible things you can imagine, they're doing it, and worse. And they love doing it. It's basically an art form to them.
And also, guys, I did do the Drukhari this Monday. So please check it out, as YouTube really censored both, not censored, but shadow banned, both the video and the short version of that. Usually I get around 500 to 900 views for the shorts. This one only got 96. So, please go check that out, because it was a very good one in my opinion.
Whether they're making you do general labor, fighting in an arena, or just keeping you as a pet, they are going to make it as terrible of a time as possible. I imagine at some point you'd like to escape this madness. Well, good luck with that, because not only are you in another dimension, but the city itself is basically incomprehensible. Gravity is topsy-turvy, the buildings are constantly shifting, different parts of the city are other realms. You'll have no idea where you're going at any time. And eventually you'll end up meeting some horrible...
Which are, the mandrakes are very interesting. Because there's some things in the Bible that I may have to do a video on that. So, but anyways.
New nightmare that's going to do horrible things to you. It could be Drukhari, it could be one of their experiments, it could be other aliens they captured. It'll be a bad time no matter where you go. Is escape totally impossible? No, it has happened before. But are you as an individual likely to make it happen? Absolutely not. But take some solace in the fact that it's not all fun and games for the Drukhari here. A lot of it is fun and games, but they can have a bad time too. For example, the politics of Commorragh are an absolute nightmare. There's so many gangs and warlords fighting for power all the time. Plots, schemes, backstabbing, and betrayal are constant. So even this safe haven for the Drukhari isn't even that safe.
And all those pain and suffering, and they do it to each other as well. But anyways, I digress.
Doubly so when you consider the demons. If the Dark Eldar bring in one wrong psychic, or there's a cosmic event they can't control outside, then oops, a bunch of demons found their way inside and they're coming after you. Part of the risks when having a multi-dimensional city. But that's a very brief look at the basics of Commorragh.
And real quick, I want to talk about those. Jesus talks about the gates of hell, right? And I just brought it up in Monday's video about these 7 gates of the underworld in Sumerian mythology. And it talks about these 7 gates. Jonah talks about these bars. And they're like bolts. Think of it as like a bolt shutting a gate, kind of, right? and it also talks about these bars in that mythology there of Ereshkigal. But anyways,
If you want me to do a deeper dive into the city, the Drukhari, or anything else in 40k, then please let me know in the comments.
now we're going to be reacting to Warhammer, the darkest things in 40k Part 2, the homunculus. Now, we're going to get into that horse leech I was talking about. This is very interesting here. So this is Proverbs 30:15. The horse leech had 2 daughters crying, "Give, give." There are 3 things that never satisfy, yea, 4 things say not, "It is enough." Okay, let's go to the meaning of this. So, where is it? Or the horse leech. This is the word aluka, or aluka, sorry. And this is what it means. Noun feminine, vampire-like demon. You and others, or name of sage. But yeah, so it means a vampire-like demon. Very interesting. Now, it doesn't have much to do with homunculus, but I just wanted to get into that. So, anyways, let's get this started here.
Sweet, dude, you made it. And I'm so sorry, because we're talking about the darkest things in the 40k universe. Case in point, the homunculus. The homunculi are known as flesh crafters. They see themselves as artists, and flesh as their canvas. They can use suffering like a source of energy. So the Drukhari take tons of slaves, which the homunculi use to create horrific abominations. Not to mention this suffering can be used to regrow their soldiers. Even if all that's left of them is like a finger. The most horrifying thing.
You hear this a lot, like in mythology. Like just think of necromancers, all that stuff. Is they create these all kinds of different crazy monsters and stuff like that. And that's what these watchers were doing. They were creating all different kinds of stuff, right? And they taught mankind to do it. We see in like Josh 4 and Jubilees 5 that all flesh was corrupt and that men were mixing one species with the other and stuff like that. So, but anyways.
Thing about the homunculi are the realms they call home. They live deep in the dark city of Commorragh, and in the darkest depths of its spires are the layers of the homunculi, each one a dark reflection of the homunculus that lives there. But a common element in their architecture is that the walls and furniture are made of stitched together, still living people, trapped in eternal agony. They live in a palace of flesh, just so you know they're evil.
Now we're going to be reacting to Warhammer 40k T, the shadow over Commorragh. Alright, now we're going to get into this land of darkness. So this is very interesting. It's like this own little dark dimension. So Job 10:22, a land of dark. You know what? I should probably read. Hold on. So verse 21, before I go whence, I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and of the shadow of death. A land of darkness is darkness itself, and the shadow of death, without any order, and where the light is as darkness. This is where that city resides and all that, right? So, very interesting.
Okay. So, while the craft worlds are drifting off into space and the exodites are out here farming on the frontier, living their best little house on the prairie life, the actual worst of the Eldar society found a completely different solution, okay? Because these people didn't want to change.
I think she sounds Italian. She kind of has that Italian accent, but I could be wrong.
Anything. They didn't want to give up on the hedonism. Okay, what they wanted was somewhere they could push it even further with 0 rules and 0 judgment. And I'm sorry, but this aesthetic, I'm judging. All right, anyway, they found exactly that. Deep inside the webway, in this massive port city called Commorragh.
To be honest, that is kind of cool. But anyways.
Or Commorragh. I don't know how to say it because it sounds very much like Gomorrah.
Commorragh.
Anyway,
Commorragh.
Focus.
Actually, you know what? I do want to bring that up because Sodom and Gomorrah wasn't just destroyed because of homosexuality or whatever. This is why it was destroyed. Again, remember genetic manipulation and all that? The angels, Genesis 6, they came down, mated with women, and you get the gist. Well, this is what Jude says happened. Okay. So Jude 1:7, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. Right? This isn't homosexuality. There's a reason why the people, with Lot, they wanted the angels. They didn't care about the two daughters, right? Which I would have never given up my daughters, by the way, Lot. But anyways, I digress. But still, they wanted the angels. That's the strange flesh there. So, but anyways.
This was originally just a transit hub, okay? Basically a giant rest stop built right where all the wayway tunnels intersect. But because it's sat completely outside any actual law, it became this magnet for the richest, most depraved people in the empire. Rogue nobles, pleasure cult leaders, basically anyone who had the money and the appetite to go further than anyone else there. And the scale of it was genuinely unmatched, all right? Like, this wasn't some dirty back alley. This was a continent-sized maze of lawless little worlds stacked on top to each other and behind closed doors.
Okay, so there is this gate system. That God has a gate system, and then the kingdom of darkness has a gate system, right? Jesus talks about the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. But check this out. Psalms 24, 7 through 10. We'll just do 7. So, lift up ye heads, O ye gates, and be lift ye up, for ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is the King of glory? The long, strong, mighty, and the Lord mighty in battle. So we use these in battle as well. Lift ye heads, O ye gates, even lift them up, ye everlasting doors. So Psalms is basically, it's a song that's going on right here, right? But yeah, so lift ye up ye gates, the everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. So, these gates are portals. The book of Enoch clearly calls them portals, right? He steps into the one with, which the New Jerusalem is basically like a craft world, but that's a whole nother thing. But I digress.
People built actual arenas and torture chambers and whatnot because they figured out pretty quickly that pain gave you an even bigger high than pleasure did. Okay, we listen and we don't judge. I get it.
I don't know about that.
And at that point, they just completely stopped caring about anything outside their own little bubble. They thought they were.
It does. Like pain, all that releases endorphins into your body. And there's a reason why people do get addicted to that, like sadomasochism and stuff like that. But anyways.
Untouchable. All right. But here's the thing. The part that it's almost funny if it wasn't dark. So dark. Like, they genuinely thought hiding behind all that webway tech kept them safe from whatever was building in the warp. And they had no idea that all that concentrated cruelty was basically feeding the exact thing that was about to come for everyone. Like, it's giving main character syndrome at the worst possible moment.
To an extent. What it does is it staves off Slanesh, right? So to an extent, or whatever, but yeah, but she is right. But I digress. Sorry. I need to stop saying
they
digress.
Thought they were building an empire that would last forever, when really they were just digging the deepest hole in the galaxy, and the blast was coming for them too. Like, seriously, to each their own with their kings, but
yeah. The Jukari, folks.
I don't know.
Now we're going to wind this video down. I want to thank everybody who liked the video. If you disliked the video, thank you for at least giving me a chance. and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.